Good afternoon. My name's Doug Holder. Here I'm Poet to Poet, Writer to Writer. My guest is novelist Paul Stone. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Just to say that I have a new book out, which is basically a lot of interviews here that I've conducted here with various people. It's called From the Paris of New England, Interviews with Poets and Writers. And it's available through lulu.com, Lulu.com, or through the Ibbotson Press website, ibbotsonpress.com. Paul Stone, our guest this afternoon, is an advertising consultant, journalist, and author of the novel, Or So It Seems. Why don't you lift that up there? By Blind Elephant Press. The book deals with a Woody Allenish, neurotic type of character who searches for truth, spiritual salvation, and sex, guided by an odd, avuncular Hindu deity figure. This all takes place in the general environments of Boston, Cambridge, Mass. With this unusual conceit of Eastern religion and Borscht Belt humor, Stone takes us on a roller coaster ride that keeps the reader on his or her seat. His or her seat?
On the edge of?
On the edge of, right. Well, I would hope you'd be on your seat, right?
I would hope.
You're right. Now, Paul, when you started this, writing this novel, or So It Seems, which is available on Amazon, and what's your website?
Well, you go to my website, but you'd have to go to Amazon anyway.
What's your website anyway?
It's orsoitseems.info.
Okay.
And there's also paulstephenstone.com.
And you have a blog as well.
And I do.
Yeah, what's that?
orsoitsemesstone.blogspot.com.
Okay, so when you started writing this novel, Or So It Seems, you were recently divorced, you were bitter. This is self-described. You were bitter. You were angry.
Right.
And how about when you finished a novel? How would you describe yourself? Was it,
Well, it's an interesting arc that the novel traveled and that I traveled in the same period.
Right.
And so the novel evolved into something much larger and much less driven by the forces that first drove me to start the novel. There's always been a novel in me or book in me, maybe more. I've always known that. I've always been drawn to it. But when I sat down to write Or So It Seems, I was bitter. There was this need to somehow or other prove that I was the victim in the situation, that my wife was the guilty party and all that. And that sort of, after 7 years, I finished that book. And then what happened was I was told that it needed a little narrative tension. And I sat down to just reorder events. And as soon as I sat down, this whole other spiritual aspect came in. And as I said to you, it was as if somebody hit me on the side of the head and said, now you're supposed to write, now you're going to write the novel you were supposed to write.
Could have been your father, right?
Could have been.
Yeah.
Could have been. And all of a sudden, all these new concepts, names, people, ideas came in, and it scared me. I didn't want to start rewriting at that stage. This was 7 years, had been gone, had been put into it, and I thought maybe a short little rewrite and I could get out quick. And so then it was 5 years later before I finally finished the book, and it's, as I said, it's much different than what I set out to write.
Okay. Now, was this book in any way, since you were going through this turmoil, was this book in any way sort of therapeutic for you, would you say?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If I had stopped after the 7 years, I think I would have been at least, I would have saved at least 20 years of therapy. It really was therapeutic. It allowed me to vent. It allowed me to look at some of the things that were kind of bottled up.
Right.
But at the same time, it was somebody that felt he had been victimized. And quite honestly, I think if you see yourself as a victim, then you're the victim.
Right.
And I really feel I've moved much further than that.
Okay. Okay. So you're not the victim now, you're the...
No, I'm the beneficiary of a novel.
Okay.
A novel that's quite surprising.
Now, before you started, you were just touching on this. Before you started your rewrite of your novel, you said it was like you heard. Well, I read in an essay you sent out. It said like it was like you heard a voice that said, "Now here's the novel you're supposed to write." Now, if you were to personify that voice, as someone, who would it be?
Well, I think there's someone, a guide or a muse or some force or some elder that's a spirit. You know, it's something that I can see, no one I can see or talk to. But there's somebody that that helps me, that works with me. I know that. Somebody that wakes me up at 3 o'clock in the morning with ideas, and I used to fight those ideas. I used to say to myself, well, I'll deal with that in the morning. And I've come to see that if I don't get up and deal with them, I'm not going to get back to sleep.
Was this voice present before you started writing the book, or?
Well, it's not like I'm hearing voices. You know?
No. I'm not implying that. But when we all.
Oh yes. I mean, I'm in advertising, and
right.
I just have to correct you. I'm actually currently the director of advertising for WB Mason.
Oh, what did I say?
Well, then I was an advertising consultant.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a direct employee
All
at
right.
Mason, but I do other
Right.
gigs as well. But I all my advertising career, which is spent as a creative person, I would get ideas in the middle of meetings. I would get ideas in the middle of the night, and they come from somewhere. And I know in a meeting, I'll be working or talking about a situation, and you really have to be careful that when an idea comes to you, it's the right idea. Otherwise, you shouldn't be bringing it into the meeting. And I've gotten to have a lot of faith in this voice that somehow offers ideas at different times.
Mm-hmm.
But this, the thing that sort of strikes me as so, and I said it was almost, he was a palpable presence, is because this novel was not the novel I knew I was going to write, and I didn't know where this was going, and it really had a way in which when I finished it, I was surprised at how tightly wrapped the story was, that it wasn't sort of going off at different ends, that it really was completely, the circle had been completed.
Now, I was going to ask you, notes here.